For the Chief Security Officer, this slide serves to focus on the critical issue of how senior management thinks about security risk and security cost. In many cases, senior management takes a position that variable costs are not predictable, and that adding operation-related security costs to managing variable cost is simply an additional waste of the company's money. The problem for the CSO is that far too often the variable cost of, for example, theft is viewed as occasional and of little impact. But let's consider the example of a company that's engaged in the smelting business who experiences copper thefts from their smelting plants in a particular emerging country. The cost of replacing the stolen copper likely does not warrant increasing the security facilities cost. However, when it is determined that the fact that the copper theft took place during a critical phase of smelting and that theft resulted in a flawed process which required significant rework and much higher costs, might justify the expense. Remember that senior business management focuses most often on what it can control, where it can reduce cost, where it can gain greater productivity. Variable security costs like theft, fraud, product diversions are typically not the focus of business management until the CSO gathers that data in a collective manner and presents it for consideration. In this slide, we have provided samples of both operating cost security mitigation programs and variable security cost issues. A reminder that while we separate employees and asset protection programs on a cost basis, it should remain obvious that there is a significant overlap of program benefits in each area. Guards, guns, and gates not only secure assets, but they secure the employees inside those fences. We can break down security operating costs into program subsets to better explain budget lines and benefits. For example, employee awareness and travel alert monitoring are effective tools for companies who have percentages of their employees traveling globally, including to countries identified as having higher levels of risk. Asset protection has significantly changed over the last 2 decades. Outsourcing and globalization have changed when and where asset protection is applied. For example, a chief security officer today needs to focus on asset protection in contract language, working with the purchasing department, so that the company's products, which are manufactured by a third party, still have levels of security program protection. Variable expenses, using losses and investigations as examples, are obviously driven by the frequency of occurrence. Large companies with large employee populations may see investigative needs for examining criminal activity, frankly, driven by the scale of the business. If you take a conservative position and look at insider theft and collusion, for example, that percentage might amount to 0.5% of all employees on a yearly basis engaged in some form of criminal activity. For a company with 100,000 employees, that may require 500 investigations a year or 1 or 2 investigations per day. In any company where investigations are required, there are additional variable costs, including the contributions of time and effort from the legal department, human resources, forensics and technology, and from the business units. Further, remember, there is always a cost of hiring and training a new employee to replace an employee who was terminated for wrongdoing.